All right. Hi, everyone. Come on in. I'm going to give this a minute so that people can come into the link. But come on in. And if you're in and you can hear me, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from. And you can also mention what type of fellowship you would love to find, whether you're looking for a graduate fellowship, undergraduate fellowship, professional fellowship, creative fellowship, or international fellowship. I love to see kind of the range of things that people are looking for. So feel free to put that in the chat while we give people a few minutes to get into the link. I'm just going to make sure everything is set up here. And come on in, come on in. Okay, so I see some people are coming in. All right, feel free to say hi in the chat. I'm going to put a hi in there, just make sure this is working. Hello from Bend, Oregon. There you go. That's me. Yes, come on in. Okay, great. So Sydney's kicked us off. Hello, Sydney from Texas, looking for a graduate fellowship. Great, come on in. And in just one more minute, I'll get started. I just want to make sure people are able to get into the link. And then we will get started. Oh, and I'm looking at names in the chat and I recognize some names. Hello, Lizette. All right. This is great. Yep, come on in and say hi. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. All right, great. We've got Naosheen from Georgia. Hello, at George Washington University. Fantastic. Tamara is looking for graduate level fellowships for PhDs. Chris from Jersey, looking for a creative or professional fellowship. Wayne Smith from Los Angeles, looking for a graduate fellowship for clinical psychology programs. All right, Jasmine, doctoral student at Georgia State, interested in graduate fellowships. Great. Shreya, hello, PhD student, interested in industrial internship during my PhD. Wonderful. All right. And as you guys are coming in too, this is great to know what kind of awards that you're looking for, because there's a really wide range. So I want to make sure that you know the terminology that we use to find what you were looking for, and also how you can find things in different disciplines for different career levels, you name it. So I'm going to get started so that we have lots of time for the presentation and for Q&A. Thank you for registering for today's presentation, Secrets to Using the ProFellow Database. And I'm going to help you today find fellowships for you. So I'm hoping that every single one of you has already checked out the ProFellow.com database. But even if you never used it before, you will get a little intro into how to use this humongous database and hopefully find a lot of different awards, not even just for the next year or so, but maybe even for the full course of your career. So let me introduce myself. My full name is Dr. Vicki Johnson. Feel free to call me Vicki. I'm the founder and director of ProFellow. And we founded ProFellow 10 years ago, back in 2011, really to achieve the social impact mission of making these awards more accessible, more findable, and more diverse. And so we created this huge free database of all different types of awards. We're still adding new awards every month. And the purpose of this database is really to help you find these incredible funding opportunities. So I got into this field because early in my career, I had stumbled upon a professional fellowship when I was in college, my senior year of college. It was called the New York City Urban Fellows Program. It was a one-year professional fellowship in New York City government. And being a government major and studying in New York State, I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. And I pursued that award, got into the program. But back then too, this is back in 2001. This is a long time ago. I also found, I found that just by chance through a brochure in a career office. I used the internet to see if there were other fellowships. So once I knew what a fellowship was and undertook a fellowship, I started to see what else is out there. Started to do some really deep internet search. Long story short, 20 years later, we have uncovered so many incredible fellowships. And I've done quite a few fellowships myself. I did the German Chancellor Fellowship in Germany. I did a Herbert Scoville Jr. Peace Fellowship in Washington, D.C. And I also did a mid-career Fulbright Award in New Zealand. The other thing we talk quite a bit about at ProFellow is graduate school funding, because this is another area that early in my career, I did not know how to find graduate school funding. I did my Master of Science in Public Health at the London School of Hygiene. I paid for that completely with student loans and working. And then later in my career, I achieved my PhD with full funding at Massey University. And it was only then that I discovered this world of full funding for master's and PhD programs. In any case, I like to call myself a career adventurer because I now have dedicated my career to running and growing ProFellow. And now we help people all over the world find fellowships, win fellowships, really so that you can launch your career adventure. And I call it a career adventure. If you're someone that's working in the social impact space, if you enjoy traveling, if you enjoy being in new and challenging situations, you are a career adventurer. So let's show you how to use this amazing database throughout your career. Now at ProFellow.com, this is what our home website looks like. You can, if you haven't created an account yet, you can just click that big Get Started button, or there's a sign up button at the top. This is to create a free account at ProFellow, and this is what gets you inside our free database. So you do have to create an account. Just so you know, our social impact mission is to help you find awards. When you create a free account with ProFellow, just know that we do not share your information with any third parties. This is only used for you to have an account, so we don't have that as a model of generating revenue. We do not sell your information, not even to fellowship organizations. But there are great fellowship organizations looking for people just like you. So if you sign up for our mailing list and create an account, we'll be able to send you fellowships that match your background. So a benefit to signing up for the database is to get in and use the database and find and bookmark fellowships so that you have them saved. But also make sure to sign up for the mailing list, because we send out our popular weekly newsletter, the ProFellow Insider, with new awards, trending articles, and great events like this. And then also sometimes you'll get information and emails about specific new awards that have open calls. So if it matches your background, then you might get an email about a fellowship. Now, this is to say too, if you created a ProFellow account many years ago, I also encourage you to log in and update your profile, because your information may have changed. Maybe there was a time you were looking for undergraduate fellowships and now you're looking for professional fellowships. Or maybe now you're a master's student or PhD student. Make sure you update your ProFellow.com profile so that we can send you awards that are matching what you're doing right now. Also, in addition, of course, check out the full ProFellow website. We do articles on application tips. We interview fellows about their experience. We have lots of resources and interesting things. So make sure to check out the full website. Now, what are fellowships? We call fellowships short-term funded opportunities to do something exceptional. So all types of fellowships are time limited in nature. So usually they can be anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple years in length. A common length for a fellowship is 1 year. And I'll show you some examples of this. Also, we call fellowships funded opportunities. Now, there are fellowships out there that are not funded. We don't list those in our database. So in our database, we only list opportunities that offer funding in the form of a stipend or grant, as well as reimbursements for things like travel and funding for the opportunity itself. So for the awards that are in our database, you really shouldn't have to pay money out of pocket to participate in a fellowship. We also list fully funded graduate programs. I'll explain that as well. And then third, we say do something exceptional. Virtually all fellowships are merit-based. So these aren't scholarships for financial need like you see at the undergraduate level. A lot of these fellowships are looking for people who are working in specific areas. They're looking for people who are working hard, striving to do specific types of projects. So if you're somebody that's a hard worker, a high achiever, a fellowship could be a great opportunity for you to advance your career or find funding for your next big career goal. And the other great thing about fellowships is they often give you the funding and resources to do something really unique, something that you might not be able to do in a typical job or on your own. So this is why I love fellowships, and it might be why you might also love fellowships too. Now, a couple reasons why you might want to pursue a fellowship. They can do a lot of different things. So there's lots of different types of fellowships. Let me explain the different things you might be able to do on a fellowship. So first and foremost, you may be able to pursue a self-designed project or research. So there is fellowships that fund specific types of projects. They could be professional in nature, creative in nature, or just pure research. So there are fellowships that could give you funding for that if that's something that you're looking for. There's also a wide range of professional fellowships that would give you high-level work experience in your industry or in a new industry. So some of them function like full-time work placements. So you're working full-time for something like a year, placed in a nonprofit or a government agency or a research institute. And there's also other types of awards that are short-term experiences as well. There's also lots of international fellowships that can help fund an experience to work or study abroad. So whether you're an American who wants to go abroad, either in a professional capacity or to study, there's fellowships for that. There's also fellowships for people who want to come to the United States. So we are a US-based organization. So a lot of the awards that are for non-US citizens are geared toward people that want to come to the US to work or to study. However, there are also fellowships for people, non-US citizens, to go to other countries as well. But that is just in the focus of our database is kind of US centric. There's also lots of awards for funding for graduate school. I'll show you the two different big buckets. If you're currently enrolled in a graduate program, a master's or doctoral program, we've got master's and doctoral fellowships that you could look at. But we also now list fully funded PhD and master's programs. These are for those of you who are not yet enrolled, but are looking to enter a program that offers funding. So I'll show you those as well. Now, in any case, fellowships, like I said, they give you unique experiences, they give you funding. Another big benefit of fellowships is that they allow you to broaden your professional network. Some people are kind of not sure about fellowships because they're short-term, or maybe the funding isn't the same as what you would get in a permanent job. However, fellowships are really unique because they literally put you in contact with leaders in your field. They help you to broaden that network. They're a bit prestigious because they're competitive, so that helps on your resume. And even the people that you meet in your fellowship, if you have a cohort experience, you get to hobnob with peers in your field who are going to be emerging and established leaders. So it's a great professional networking opportunity. Now, there's two main types of fellowships. I'm going to show you how we bucket them. First, there are this whole bucket of what we call professional fellowships. And these are awards that function like full-time work placements for a time-limited period, or provide funding for you to work on a project full-time, whether that's a professional, creative, or research-based project. So those we tend to put in the professional realm. We call those professional fellowships. Some examples are I did the New York City Urban Fellows Program. That was a one-year full-time work placement for recent graduates in a New York City government agency. I also did the German Chancellor Fellowship. That was a one-year funding award to go to Germany and pursue a project of my own design. And then I got to be with a cohort experience. So I would bucket those as professional fellowships. On the academic side, there's also a whole world of funding. And this is the more commonly known funding is the funding that's for graduate study, master's or doctoral study, and for research. And you can do research as a graduate student. You might also be doing research as a PhD or a doctorate who's now established in the field, doing your research. There's awards there. And then, of course, there's also awards that sort of straddle the two worlds. They give you both an academic and professional opportunity within it. Maybe an award we might think of that is the Schwartzman Scholars Program. That's full funding for people to go and do a master's degree in China. It's very prestigious. It's globally competitive. But there's professional elements in there as well as they do leadership development within it. So those are the main buckets. And I'll show you. These are awards that you can do really throughout your career. Another big kind of misperception is that fellowships are only for, recent graduates out of college. That's completely untrue. There's lots of mid-career and late career fellowships. Also on the academic side, there's a perception that fellowships are really just for postdocs, like postdoctoral fellowships, so just for people who have a PhD. That is also not true. There's also lots of research opportunities at the undergraduate, career, and at the graduate study level. So keep your mind open here because I'm going to show you the inside of the database. So this is a little screenshot. Now I've got to get out of my slides so I can get into the database. So just bear with me a minute. All right, let's see what I can. I'm going to stop my slide presentation and then I'm going to share my screen. All right, and then let's do the database. All right. Okay, let me just double check. Can we see the database here? I'm just going to go over here. Elizabeth, can we see the database? All right, I think we probably can. I hope so. All right, so I'm going to show you, this is what it looks like inside the ProFellow database. So when you create your account, it should just immediately redirect you into the database. And right here, with no filters applied, we have 2,450 results. That means we have 2,450 fellowship and fully funded graduate programs listed. So this is not, 2,450 individual awards. These are programs representing hundreds, thousands of awards for individuals. So a fellowship really is for an individual. It's not for an organization. So it's not like a grant. If you're looking for funding for organizations or groups, that's more in the grant world. So in the fellowship world, these are awards for individuals. Now, if you created your profile, like you'll see your profile here, if you created that, really quick and easy way to filter the database is just click this, profile filters. But I want to go through these one by one so that you can see what these different filters will show for you. And also, let me give you an overview of the database itself. So when you come into the database, you have filters here. You have a keyword search bar up here. We also have some sorts. So newest means the most newly added awards. So if you go the opposite way, these were some of the very first awards that we put in many years ago. We also have a deadline sort. So these are a little outdated. The deadlines have passed, so it's likely we've missed these. So we update these every couple of days. But you can see if you want to know, okay, what fellowships are going to be, looking for people next month. There's a lot on January 15th, so I won't go too far. But you can look at that. But also, if you go the opposite way, a little secret about the database is that there's also fellowships that have rolling deadlines. That can mean one of two things. That means either they do take applications any time of year, or it's a program that has lots and lots of different deadlines based on discipline or citizenships or that sort of thing. And we just couldn't set a deadline for this simple database listing. So I would encourage you also to make sure, don't miss out on these ones that have rolling deadlines, because there could be some really interesting ones there. This one here is just an A to Z sort. Now, these fellowship listings, we do really brief descriptions of the fellowship. In the description, we try to explain, what is the format of the fellowship, who is it for, any kind of key eligibility information. We try to write it so that if you were reading it, you could quickly discern, is this something for someone like me, or is it really like not at all for me? If you read this program, so let's say you're looking at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and you read this and you say, this is interesting, or at least I want to look at it a little more closely. Click on this and you'll get to the full database view. There's a little more information here, including a deadline. Now, the deadline could either say confirmed or it could say estimated. If it's confirmed, that means we at ProFellow have confirmed the deadline through their website or through an organization contacting us. If it says estimated, that means we have estimated it based on last year's deadline. So that is not the confirmed deadline, but we put an estimated deadline so that you can kind of get a general sense of maybe when you think that this award is. So some programs have the same deadline every year, so that's really easy for us to confirm. Other programs, they change their deadline every year. Not easy to figure out. Sometimes they don't really announce the deadline until just a few months or even a few weeks before the deadline is coming upon us. So this isn't like an exact science, but we try to put an estimated or confirmed deadline here. Now, we also try to show things like citizenship, location of the fellowship, that sort of thing. But really keep in mind, this is just a quick summary. This is not the full information about the fellowship. The way to find the full eligibility details, the details about the program, and what you need to do to apply, you want to go to the website. I think I have to share this tab instead. So you'll want to go here to learn all about the fellowship. And I would encourage you to look, deeply into the program by looking at the main website. But think of ProFellow as a discovery platform. Even occasionally, sometimes our details on this website might be a little out of date. We might have an outdated, stipend on there from last year. Don't take our information as the be all end all. Always go to the organization's website to learn more about the fellowship and get the most up-to-date information, confirm deadlines. I would even encourage you to get on their mailing list if they have one, like a newsletter or mailing list, so that you can receive announcements directly from them. Now, if you looked at this program and you thought, wow, that's an interesting thing, I want to bookmark it, even if it's something that you think maybe I'd do in 1 or 2 or 5 years from now, you can bookmark it by clicking Add to Favorites right here. Then when you go back to this screen, you can do Show Favorites. And I have other favorites saved in there, but it'll be in this list. This will show you your favorites, anything that you've bookmarked. You can hide it there. So like I said, you can also go through here and skim. Another way to bookmark directly from this view is to click this really hidden but tiny little heart over here. So if you want to bookmark something into your favorites, you can just do it there. You'll see it's there at the top of the list. I'm just going to unbookmark it for now. So let me get into the filters. This is where you can really find some interesting stuff. So over here on program type, we have bucketed different types of awards into these categories. Let me start first with the fellowship categories. So number one, we do list many professional fellowships, nearly 700 professional fellowships. So again, these are going to be awards that fund a work placement or fund a project. This is not going to be academic. This is not going to be for study. This is going to be for funding to go and do something. So you'll see at the top here, the Composer Fellowship is right at the top. There's other things here. There's a residency program, the Equity Atlas Fellowship. There's all sorts of different fellowships, fellowships for journalists, fellowships for teachers. So you can have a lot of fun there looking through these opportunities. Also, now when we get into academic fellowships, we have 5 different kinds actually. So let me start undergraduate fellowships. There's not many, but there's some. And undergraduate fellowships may sometimes fund tuition. Not super common, but undergraduate fellowships tend to provide funding for research experiences or professional development experiences or even leadership development. So if you're an undergraduate currently enrolled, I would check out these. You might find some really interesting opportunities. Some of them are in the summer, but these are student fellowships. Some of them could give you access to networks that help you get a job after college. There's grants for research. It's great to do undergraduate research if, say, you want to go on to do a PhD. You want to get as much undergraduate research experience as possible. So there's all sorts of interesting things here for undergraduate fellowships. There's also, likewise, master's fellowships. These are fellowships for currently enrolled students. Now, some of them are for people enrolled in a very specific university or people who are incoming into a university. We try not to list those too much because every university has internal fellowships. So if you're looking at universities, either because you're currently enrolled or you're about to enter a program, always look at your university's website for their internal fellowships. What we try to list are fellowships that are open to everybody. So these could be nationally competitive or even globally competitive fellowships. Some of them provide funding, some of them provide professional or research experiences, some of them provide both. So I would encourage you to look through these if you're currently enrolled or about to enter a master's program. Likewise, for doctoral fellowships, there's lots of doctoral fellowships here. Many of the doctoral fellowships are really geared toward funding your dissertation research as a PhD student. But again, there's also fellowships that are geared toward professional experiences. They may provide funding for tuition. So if you're a currently enrolled doctoral student of any type, I would check out these doctoral fellowships. Another cool thing we have listed are summer fellowships. So a little bit of a difference between a summer internship and a summer fellowship. Fellowships, number one, we only list funded fellowships for the summertime. So summer fellowships can be for undergraduate, master's, and doctoral students, including people who are just about to graduate. So that's summer after graduation. So whatever, if you're currently a student, I would check these out. These can give you a funded summer experience. Also, usually if it's called a fellowship, it's you're doing things at a little higher level than you would do in an internship. Some internships do offer really high level, experiences and mentorship. Other internships that you might hear of are really more administrative, or, you're doing kind of really low level work, but you're getting into the office space. These types of summer fellowships really, I think, are going to give you a really great experience, and they're funded. So in addition to looking at internships, definitely look at these summer fellowships. Likewise, we have postdoctoral fellowships. Now, often in academia, people who are looking at postdoctoral fellowships, when you hear postdoctoral fellowships, you think of the first, 1 to 5 years after you've graduated from your PhD. I just want you to know that if you are an established academic, you have a PhD, you have more than 5 years of post-PhD research, you're a faculty member, we also bucket any kind of awards that are for PhDs under this. So just because it was getting, we're just trying to keep it simple. So if you are an established faculty member or academic, you should also look at these postdoctoral fellowships. It's generally just our word for, ones that require you to have a doctorate. And then now the other categories, and we just started adding these in 2022, are fully funded PhD programs and fully funded master's programs. If you don't know what a fully funded PhD program is, these are programs that give all or most accepted students a full funding package. And full funding is usually in the form of a graduate assistantship, which is a part-time job with the university. So when you come into a fully funded program, you get a full tuition waiver, and you get an annual living stipend in exchange for your work as a graduate assistant. And as a graduate assistant, you're doing research, you're helping faculty teach their classes. It's a great opportunity to get your degree fully funded. What you'll find, though, is that full funding is really only found in research-based, full-time, on-campus programs. So that is what you'll find. Most of the things listed in our database are full-time, on-campus, research-based programs, like PhDs, not professional doctorates. Likewise, same thing at the master's level. We say fully funded masters. Just be aware, though, that at the master's level, it is harder to find full funding. And also sometimes it's a partial tuition waiver and not a full tuition waiver. Usually the waivers and assistantships are really prioritized for doctoral students because they're studying for 5 years. For 2 years, master's students, 2 to 3 years, whatever length that is, there are full funding opportunities. I would definitely have you look at these. But in some cases, it's not guaranteed to all incoming students, but it might be most. What we do at ProFellow is try to list programs where it offers a graduate assistantship to all or most incoming master students. And there's some great stuff in here. I'll show you for MPPs. There's a couple of fully funded MPP, MPA programs, Duke and Princeton, as well as Pardee Rand. There's one fully funded MBA program that we found, University of Massachusetts Amherst. And two of people who've gotten into this program are in my mentorship program. There's a couple like that. So you can look at fully funded masters and fully funded PhDs if you're not currently yet in a graduate program. Even if you're a master's student and you're like, maybe I'll do a PhD one day, check out the fully funded PhD programs here. Now, let's get into the other types of things. And by the way, if you lose track of what are these things, it is explained in the little in the little question mark there. Now, for disciplines, again, we have really broad disciplines, and we do this because we just didn't want to have a huge, long drop down. Whatever discipline you're working in, you want to try to think about which broader discipline would it fall under. So, for example, if it is economics, it could be liberal arts. You might also look at business. If you're a journalist, you might want to look in communications. All types of engineering could be under engineering. If you're in government, public policy, community service, nonprofit, that would probably be under public service. So, and things like public health, that would be under health sciences. So you think about the broad disciplines, But I'm also going to show you up here in the keyword search, you can do search by subdisciplines. If you do public health, you'll see there's lots of results. If you do economics, lots of results. Journalism, I'll show you a few more when I get to the end here. But I would say, you could use just this keyword search or also do broad disciplines. Now, the way the keyword search works is if the word that you're searching for is in the description or in a tag on the on this program. So for example, we have keywords here, we add keywords. But I would say too, there are a lot of fellowship programs as well that are multidisciplinary. They take people from all different disciplines. So if you narrow your fellowship search just to your subdiscipline, you may miss out on awards that take people from lots of different disciplines. So for example, the German Chancellor Fellowship, which I did in Germany, this is a fellowship that takes people from Brazil, China, India, South Africa, and US to carry out a project of their own design in cooperation with a host in Germany for 1 year. Now, they have a couple of, different things here. If you did put in economics, it might have shown up. They also take people in journalism. They also take people in, English and international affairs and other studies. So if you put in a keyword up here, you might miss out on the German Chancellor Fellowship because you didn't get it. So I would say first start with the broad discipline search. Think about the disciplines and think about overlapping disciplines too. Don't just limit it to one. That way you can really take some time to look through. Even in the field of education, there's 362 results. Let's say you're looking for a professional fellowship. 163 results. But again, it shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to read these descriptions one at a time. These are really brief for a reason so that you can quickly go through. So don't be afraid if there's lots of results. I say that's a good thing. Just go through them one at a time. So that's all about disciplines. Now, let me show you a few more things. Program location, again, really broad regions because, again, some are a little bit more complicated, like you could do it, in Europe, but it doesn't have to be in, say, France, So we did do it like this. But again, if you want to do Europe, look at Europe more broadly, but you can put in, countries in the keyword search. You want to do that. So use the broad location if you have broad. If you can only do a program in France or that's specifically what you're looking for, then use the keyword search to find countries. There might be some things there. See? All right. Now, for citizenship requirement, you should put in your citizenships, whatever those are. If you're a U.S. citizen, put in United States. That will help kind of rule out programs that are not for U.S. citizens. And there are some that are only for non-U.S. citizens. If you're from, say, Ghana, you'll see there's lots of awards that you could potentially be open to. But in any case, always double check the website just to make sure. This is not a perfect science. Like I said, this is a discovery platform. So just double check if, use your citizenship for this. I also want to mention if you are in the United States, either on a student visa or as a permanent resident, but not a citizen, I would still put in United States for this field because, again, there's a lot of different things around eligibility. Some of them are open to U.S. permanent residents. Some are open to international students who are studying in the United States. So in that case, if you're currently in the United States as a resident, also put in U.S. just so you don't rule out things that you could potentially be eligible for. Again, you want to look a little more closely at the website. Now, finally, we have this work experience requirement, and this kind of embodies both work and any age limits. I want you to know that most awards do not have age limits. Let me repeat, most awards do not have age limits, and also most awards do not have a specific work experience requirement. However, there are awards that are looking for people at different stages in their career. It's true that there are awards that are looking just for recent graduates and people really early in their career. There are also awards that are looking for people who have 5 or 10 or more years of work experience. If you are a recent graduate and you're like, I really just want to not look at anything that's for people with 10 plus years of work experience, you could put in your less than 5 years. Again, or if you are late or mid-career and you're like, I only want to look at things for 10 plus years, you could put in 10 plus years. The only, I actually still recommend leaving this filter open because again, if it doesn't have a work experience requirement, it'll probably be listed with all three. And I just don't want you to miss out on anything that could be open to you that doesn't have a work or age requirement experience. I actually just recommend leaving that open. Now, the other thing up here is this keyword search. Over here, I have actually, I wish I could have pulled it open. I have a keyword search in the presentation I'm going to show you, and you can take a screenshot with it. There's lots of different ways to use this keyword search, but a key to this is that you can't say do Washington, DC, and then economics. It doesn't work with multiple. It's not that fancy is all I wanted to say. Oh, wait, I'm not even spelling it right. Washington, DC, economics. You can't do multiple keywords with commas like you can in maybe some other fancier databases. You have to do one at a time, but you can use this keyword search for lots of different things. So like I said, first and foremost, subdisciplines, public health. You could look at sociology. You could look at journalism. Showed you that before. You know, you use that for that. The other one is looking at different types of degree levels. So we have tried to tag fellowships for experienced professionals, for example. So this one here is really looking for people who have a kind of a higher level of work experience. Some of them will be specific, but these are really senior congressional innovation fellowship. These are for people that have a bit of work experience. You could also, we commonly use the word mid-career. You'll see there's 117 results that either have the word mid-career in the description or the tag. There also is recent graduates. You know, there's that kind of thing. So you can use those kind of keywords for kind of different career levels. Other things is looking for fellowships just for women. You'll see there's women-focused fellowships. A lot of these are for helping to diversify gender. You can look for also, we use the word minority for words for racial minorities or other types of underrepresented minority groups. Use the word minority to find those types of fellowships. We even have LGBTQ. There's going to be quite a few actually for LGBTQ. You can even use words like Latino. You can use you can use, you know, different ethnic groups. There's different ways, you know, use those kind of keywords to see what you come up with. You might find a perfect award for exactly what you're looking for. Other types of features too. Sometimes people are looking for part-time fellowships. Is there something that I can do with my current job or studies? 70 results that are part-time. Some people are looking for virtual fellowships. You can't relocate. We've been getting more and more virtual fellowships. I think we also have been using the word remote. Also, we use the word short-term to describe awards that are 3 months or shorter. So less than 3 months. There's quite a lot of short-term fellowships. So check those out. Some other, let me see, I got to remember what other qualities I'm thinking of. You can always do location. Sometimes you can do states. You can do cities like New York City and others. Oh, and the other type of student I forgot to mention, there are fellowships for international students. Put that in as a keyword. You can look for, I would use your citizenship requirement, but we have tagged things for non-US citizens. Wait, I think it was, maybe it's US. Sometimes you have the full, oh wait. So I think we've been using, but I would say use that citizenship requirement to find those, because that tag is not really working very well. Yes, so these are just a couple of examples of all the different things. What I want to do is go back over to my slides. Let me get back over here. I am going to take questions, and I'll bring this up again when I have the questions. So let me just get back to my slides over here. Start presentation. Start. Okay, so on this, these are some of the keywords that I showed you. There are others, but let me see if there's anything on here. You can take a screenshot of this, or there'll be a recording of this as well. But there's features like study abroad. Also underneath masters and doctoral fellowships, if you're looking for the really big awards that offer full funding, pick your master's fellowships or pick doctoral fellowships and then put in the keyword search full funding. We tagged awards that provide really significant funding as an external fellowship. Well, there's lots of social impact awards. There's awards for self-designed projects. That's another keyword you can use. Residencies. If you're an artist, use the word residency and see what comes up. There's also, for example, fellowships in the U.S. federal government. So we've tagged those federal government. A lot of people are looking for multidisciplinary awards. Put that in. Also, career change. People always ask me about career change fellowships. Try that in the keyword. And then also subdisciplines. STEM is a big subdiscipline. So if it's in science or technology or engineering or math, we put in the word STEM as a tag. These are just some of the subdisciplines, some of the most commonly searched ones, but there's a lot more. So have fun with those database keywords. Pour a hot drink, sit down, and go through this database because there's lots of interesting things in the database here. Now, I want to leave time for questions. I want to talk a little bit about the application process for these awards. So even for the professional fellowships that function like a job, a short-term job, they have the application process for a fellowship is much more like applying to graduate school than it is applying to a job. So a typical fellowship application will require a resume or academic CV. Often it will require a personal statement or short essays describing your goals, your motivations, your background. Often they will ask for 2 to 3 reference letters or just references. Sometimes you may need to include a project or research proposal. So if it's a project-based award, you would have to outline the how and the timeline of what you're going to do. In some cases, you may also need to be in touch with a host institution during the application process. So if you're this is common for international fellowships like Fulbright and others. Like when I did my Fulbright Awards, I had to find a host institution before applying. So an organization in the country that I would be going to. Often this can be a university. For some professional fellowships, it may also be other types of organizations. So it just depends on what their criteria is. Also, most fellowships do have an individual panel or group interview. Every single fellowship that I did had an interview process. The other important thing to know about fellowships is that unlike jobs where you apply and then maybe you're starting right away, fellowships have a long application timeline. So if you're looking for a fellowship that's going to begin after graduation, say you're graduating this coming May, you should be looking right now for fellowships. Do not delay. A lot of the deadlines for awards that begin in the summer or fall after you graduate, the deadlines are in the previous fall or in this early winter timeframe. So you want to make sure you look for those right away. A lot of people wait till March or April, and then they're a little disappointed that they've missed those deadlines. So often the deadline is well in advance from when the fellowship begins, including for professional fellowships. So, make sure you look for these now, bookmark them, be aware of the deadlines, and just be ready for this somewhat intense application process. Some fellowships will have a simpler application, others will be quite intense. So it's always good. That's another thing to look at the website to get an understanding of what do they require. Do I need recommendation letters? Do I need to find a host? If you know these things in advance, then you can be prepared. Now, my top tips around applying successfully to fellowships is number one, you have to make sure that you align your goals. These fellowships, it's really not about helping you achieve your goals. It's almost always about advancing the funding body's mission and goals, whether it's a professional or academic fellowship. So most of these organizations that offer fellowships have their own social impact mission. So they're investing in people as a way to advance their mission. So their mission might be around a specific social challenge. Maybe they're looking at poverty. Maybe they're looking at climate change. Maybe they're looking at economic development. In some cases, the mission is about diversifying who is going into certain fields like STEM or public policy. So it's really important that you take some time to look at the mission of the funding body, whether it's an organization or even a university. This is even true for graduate and master's fellowships and fully funded graduate programs. You got to understand, why are they investing this money in people? So look at the website carefully. The websites are not always that informative. So you also want to look at previously funded fellows and their projects. And another key tip I would give is to look at what they brag about. One of the key ways that I got into that very first fellowship, the New York City Urban Fellows Program, is that I did kind of research. I was looking like for press releases and other information, because the website back then, this was year 2000, I mean, it was a one-pager and it just said what the program was and how to apply. Very little information about the program itself. What I identified was a press release where the director was basically bragging about how many people go on to work long-term in New York City government. That to me was a clue. Oh, the goal and mission of this New York City Urban Fellows Program is for recent graduates to come work in New York City government for a year and then stay and work long-term in New York City government. So it was a recruitment pipeline for talent. So you want to align your goals, because if you tell them, in a year I'm going to go abroad, or I'm going to go to law school, or I'm going to go do some other thing, your goals, your career goals would not be aligned with the program's mission. So that's why it's very important to do mission research. All right, number 2 is about storytelling. This is not an easy skill. Most people get really hung up on that personal statement. What do I put in here? And often, a lot of times, people focus their personal statements and essays too much on the background information. But I want you to remember that these fellowships are not giving out fellowships as an award for everything you've ever done till now. They're picking people who are helping them advance their mission. So it's very important that your long-term goals are aligned with their long-term goals. And my key to having a really strong personal statement is to make the fellowship the hero in your story. So your application story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is your background and preparation. You talk about what you've studied. Why did you choose your major? Why did you go into certain career tracks or take certain jobs? Why are you passionate about this topic that you want to move into? That's the background. And of course, you have to do that succinctly. The end of the story is actually something in the future, post-fellowship, post-program. And this is a highly specific post-program goal. A lot of people don't actually even put in a career goal in their application. They get so hung up on the background information, they don't put in what's the goal. Always make sure that you include a post-program goal, and the more specific, the better. Now, the middle or the hook of your story is how the fellowship is going to help you achieve that goal. So what experiences, skills, networks are you going to get out of this fellowship? And how is that going to help you achieve the long-term goal? I want you to think about how to make that the hook. And really the key to all this is to demonstrate that without this fellowship, your goal may not be achieved. I want you to keep in mind, these fellowships are very unique. They're going to give you an experience that's very unique to a permanent job or an entry-level job. It might be your only opportunity to go abroad. It might be your only opportunity to pursue a project in a specific area. So they are unique, and it really, truly could be your only chance for funding and support to do something. So try to find those specific fellowships that help you achieve your goals, and really talk about how those fellowships are unique for that goal. Now, my final tip builds on the last one, is having a really highly specific goal, and sort of think about, what is your future social impact going to be? These fellowship organizations want to pick people who are going to leverage the program for future impact. So again, it's not an award for what you've done up until now. And this is why I teach that fellowships it's not really about, what is your GPA or your test scores, even for graduate programs. What they want to know is, what are you going to do with this program? If we invest in you, who are you going to help? What social challenges are you going to help solve? So you have to show them how the fellowship is going to help you achieve the skills, expertise, and networks needed to achieve your future goal. And really, the more specific your goal, the better you sound. I hate to say it. It's the highly specific goal instills confidence that you will be successful. So if you have really vague goals or no goal, the program, the readers can't really understand why do you need this fellowship, all right? Now, keep in mind, this does not set your goals in stone. Most people I know and work with through ProFellow in my programs, have multidisciplinary interests, right? So maybe you don't know what career track you're going to move into. That said, the application is not a place to just say that you're open to ideas or you're exploring options, because then you sound misguided, or that you're not really sure why you're applying to this program. So pick one authentic goal, one thing that you think this could be something I do. Pick that, be specific, and focus in on one particular goal, rather than having lots of different ideas about future impact. Now, again, I'm going to do some Q&A, but again, this is the ProFellow website. Make sure that you create your ProFellow account, or again, log in if you haven't in a long time, update your profile. I'm going to take some questions, but let me just mention a few other resources that we have. When you sign up for our database, make sure you get on our mailing list. We have this awesome weekly newsletter with new fellowships, events like this, calls for applications. You will get those if you get onto our mailing list. Also, I'm going to come back to this question screen. If you need added assistance for applying to these awards, I give workshops throughout the year. These are my kind of main 6 workshops that I give on personal statements, research proposals, resumes, interviews, and the Fulbright program. And I also, I'll do this sometime this year, is how to publish your first academic journal article. I did that once and it was really fun. So you can purchase these any time of year. If you want to get the replay of a previous event, you'll get some other little additional resources with that. But also, if you get on the mailing list, you'll hear about the live events where you can hang out with me live. I also have an in-depth 18-month program for graduate school applicants who want to get into a fully funded PhD or master's program. These are the most competitive programs, but this is an extremely effective program for getting into a fully funded PhD or master's program. I have students at all age levels in my program, all disciplines. If you want to learn more about that, definitely sign up for the free masterclass that talks a little bit more about how I advise students and wait till you see this community. It's incredible what my students have achieved. All right, but let's get back to the question screen. I want to go over and look into the chat and see what questions there might be. I meant to say to type in questions, but let me go through here. Let me see. Elizabeth, if you're able to mark, because there's a lot of things in the chat, which is awesome, but if you're able to mark things that are questions, I'll try to go through a couple of these now. So the first one is, what university do you recommend for a business PhD? Well, there is inside the database, we do have a number of fully funded PhD programs in business. When you choose a graduate program, I would say a lot of people choose graduate programs, I think, for the wrong reasons, like, well, it's the most prestigious or it's the top of the ranking list. When you go into a PhD program, the most important thing is that you have faculty alignment with the research that you want to do. A PhD in the US and Canada and other places is typically a 5-year degree. You do 2 years of coursework in research methods, and then you spend 2 to 3 years working independently on a dissertation topic. So number one, you got to be passionate about research and theory. It's not really an advanced degree in a subject. You're really training to be an academic researcher. So you gotta love research to go into a PhD. But secondly, choosing your PhD should come down to faculty conversations, figuring out, what type of dissertation topic you could do that builds on your previous foundational academic and research background, and then also kind of finding that alignment with the right faculty. I really teach this step in depth inside the fully funded course, but I would say any PhD program that's fully funded, good idea. Don't go into non-funded PhD programs. You will go into severe student debt. All right, let me take a look at some other questions. Oh, Jasmine asked, what discipline would I look under for film studies, media industry studies? That would be under creative arts. And I would also, Jasmine, try the keyword film, because we definitely have the word film, but it could also be potentially visual arts too. So again, there are some specific film fellowships, but there will also be fellowships open to artists of all different genres, So even the German Chancellor Fellowship, one of the fellows in my year was a filmmaker. So, I would just put in professional fellowships and then creative arts. You can put in film into the keyword, but I actually would recommend just going through the whole list and just seeing what's in there under creative arts. Oh, you may also, if it's media too, depending on if it's sort of in journalism, I would do communications as well, just in case. All right. I'm not sure I understand that question. Someone asked, does each fellowship have an individual website and contact person? Yes, all of the things listed in our database link to an external website, which is the main fellowship website. Now, they should all have a contact of some sort for questions about it. They may or may not list the person's name, but they will all have a contact. So if you look through the website and you have questions, definitely use their contact form or email to contact them with those questions. Also, if any fellowships or programs have info sessions, and a lot of them do, info sessions in Zoom, go to the info session. Even if you don't think you have questions, you want to go to the info sessions to introduce yourself, to show enthusiasm. There might be things that you didn't realize you should have questions about. So I would strongly recommend that you go to any info sessions for both introductions and for questions. Someone asked, are there prospective postdoctoral programs that can be done mostly remotely from out of state? I'm not totally sure. I would just recommend looking through all the postdoctoral programs. Some postdoctoral, I think, fellowships either are at specific institutions, so you go, relocate, and work there. But I do believe there may be postdoctoral fellowships that would fund research at your home institution, potentially. So I would just go use that filter, program type postdoctoral fellowships, use your broad disciplines, put in your citizenship, and maybe potentially also put in your location. So if you're not in the US or Canada, put in whatever continent you're in, Europe, Africa, Asia. That might help you to kind of look through, but you might have to look through those individually. And keep in mind, with COVID, some things have changed, and some programs that used to be 100% you must be in person, some of them have changed and have allowed some remote. Now some of them have gone back to in person. We might not have that level of detail on the ProFellow little brief description of, is it remote, is it in person, is it hybrid? Just go to the website to make sure to get all your questions answered. Chris asked, do you have any tips for narrowing down what degree to study in grad school? I'm interested in climate. Ooh, great question. Well, Chris, I think it depends on what type of career track do you want to go into? Now, if you want to study climate from a scientific perspective, you might want to go into a science-oriented degree. So it could be, environmental sustainability, environmental engineering. If you want to look at climate from an advocacy perspective, I want to work with governments to figure out how to solve the climate change crisis from a policy perspective. You could even potentially do a master's in public policy with an environmental policy focus. There will be some like that. There could be other things, other ways that you deal with climate, but it really depends on the type of work that you want to do. So think about, do you want to do scientific research? Do you want to do advocacy and policy work? Do you want to do legal work, as a lawyer? Think about that first. That will help you to narrow down. But keep in mind, even fields like climate change can fall under a lot of different disciplines. It could be public policy, it could be environmental sustainability, it could be international security, so you really have to figure out where you want to fit there. But also, Chris, I would say get in there and put the word climate change. I think we tagged a bunch of things with climate and climate change. Put that into the database and just see what interesting things come up. Someone asked, I'm looking for fully funded fellowships for a PhD in policy analysis or international affairs. We have both. So depending, Ray, if you're currently enrolled in a PhD, you would have to look at doctoral fellowships. And then, you could use the word public policy or international affairs, but I would use the broad discipline features. We have international affairs as one of our disciplines, and also public policy would be under public service. So do doctoral fellowships and then public policy, international affairs. If you're not yet enrolled, That's good. I would look at fully funded PhD programs in public policy or international affairs. We have both in the database. So do fully funded PhDs and then look under international affairs and public service as the two discipline categories and take a look at those. By the way, the what we have listed in the database for fully funded PhD and master's programs is not the full list. There are literally thousands of these programs. This is why we've started to try to add them. But if you're going into the database and you're like, I'm only seeing one or two, or I'm not seeing enough, keep in mind there are more. I have other workshops that are focused on helping people find this. I also teach how to find programs that are a perfect fit for you inside the fully funded course and mentorship program if you want that more in-depth guidance. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities. Someone asked, Ghanaians use English language, yet when you apply to these fellowships, they ask for an English proficiency test. Why? Any help to do, my dear PH? Yes, part of the reason that they ask for an English language test, this is not common for, I don't think this is common for professional fellowships, but if you're going to study in a US or even Canadian university, they just need to know that you can write and do, do your English at a top, at an academic level that's at the standard of what the US universities are expecting. Now, yes, they even require it from countries that have English as their primary language. I don't really know why that is, but I think they just want to be sure that you can write a dissertation at a level of English that would be expected. So even there are even Americans that probably their English is not so advanced that they could do academic writing. So this is like a very advanced level of English, verbal and written. So I think that's the only reason why, and it's unfortunate, but if you are already, if you have your degrees done in English in your home country, it should be very easy for you to pass an English proficiency exam. So I don't think you can get around it, but I wouldn't worry if English is something that you've been studying in for many years. Let's see. Someone asked, is it better to search for fellowships in the degree program area you're enrolled in or the topic of your research if it's different from your program topic? Oh, good question. I think, Scarlett, I would do a little bit of both. Again, I know everyone is busy and doesn't want to spend a lot of time, but I would encourage you to go into the database. If you are currently, let's say, a master's student, put in master's fellowships. And actually, I would just put in all of the related disciplines to either your degree or your topic and just go through each one by one. Some of them will be specifically for graduate research. Some of them will be more related to professional development and leadership. It just completely depends. So like I said, these fellowships for master's and doctoral students and even undergraduate students, some of them are for research, some of them are professional. So they're kind of, the reason we bucketed them is that they're specifically though for enrolled students. So I would just put them in and just, like I said, pour a cup of coffee and go through the whole list and start to bookmark things. You might find things for both things. You might find it for students in your discipline, as well as people who are doing research in specific areas. Someone asked, what is the typical standard of leadership and extracurricular involvement to be the most competitive in an application and be invited to an interview? Yes, I think it really depends on the program and what they're looking for. There isn't really a typical, I wouldn't say, unfortunately, there's not a typical standard. So I wish there was an easy answer for this. But again, it always comes back to the funding body's mission. What are they looking for in candidates? Now, you asked about the Fulbright. A lot of people mistake the Fulbright Awards. This is an international award program for Americans to go to abroad and for non-US citizens to come to the US. They have many different types of awards. Some of them are for study, some of them are for research, some of them are for faculty teaching. But everyone forgets that the funding is not to fund research or study abroad. The purpose of the Fulbright Awards is to develop diplomatic relations between the US and foreign countries. So it's based on the premise that if Americans go abroad and foreign people come to the US, that we will, as a global citizenry, we'll get to know each other better, we'll have a better understanding of each other's countries, and it'll build stronger diplomatic ties. So the number one thing for the Fulbright is showing how your study, your research, your project is going to help build international ties. It's not about funding your research. It's not about funding your study. So a lot of people, when they miss that point in their application, they're not a good candidate for the program because they miss the point of the fellowship, which is diplomacy. So that's why for every program, you have to do some mission research so that you can make sure that what you're proposing is quite similar to what they are, what they're looking for in candidates. So for example, for Fulbright, extracurricular involvement might be things that probably the best things are things that promote diplomacy or cultural understanding. It doesn't have to be international experiences necessarily. It could be that you work with people locally from different cultures. It could be that you are involved in groups like Rotary, which are international. Those might hold a little more sway because they show diplomacy and an interest in other cultures. So that's why I said every time you look at these applications, you have to look at them individually and understand that. I'm a little bit over time. I'm going to take one more question. And if for any reason I didn't get your burning question, I'm going to post this on our YouTube channel. We'll send out the link so you can find it. Post your additional questions there, and I'll try to go in and answer them right there in the YouTube link too. I'll do that as soon as that is out. I'll kind of check it over the next week and see what questions are coming through. And then someone asked, is there any tips for mid-career change scholarships? If you missed the earlier part of the presentation, both of those keywords can be used in the database. So in the database, try in the keyword bar, mid-career with a dash, MID, dash career. You can also try separately in a separate search, career change, that are looking, those might be for ones that you could do for a career change. Try those two keywords and hopefully you'll find some interesting things there. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I do have to go because I'm over time, but thank you for joining me today. I was so pleased to see so many people here, and be on the lookout for an email. I'll be sharing out the YouTube link. And again, you could post more questions there, and I hope to see you again at ProFellow. All right. Thanks everyone. Take care.